Hi, Jace here, and I'm working on this track that I'm calling Hope right now for that's going to be released soon. And we're talking. This is part three of a discussion about the importance of tempo and how to use it in ways that how it can be used in ways that really bring your compositions full spectrum to everything that they're trying to be. You know, and I'm following the music on this one, and it's given me some interesting advice on what to do in the tempo on this track. So let's roll into this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about tempo mapping. I'm going to talk a little bit more about tempo as a device. We talk about the four cornerstones of music: melody, rhythm, harmony, and tone color. And I'm really focusing in on being able to get the most for the purpose of this track out of the tempo. Let me play this for you, and we're going to play this out to the end now. Okay. All right. I'm going to talk about this ending of this track and the way I'm using tempo to kind of bring it the whole way home. If you've listened to part one or two of this series that I'm doing on this track, you'll know this theme is the pretty much the centerpiece. So I believe that every music is trying to deliver a message, and for me, this kind of came in one take when I was working in a studio on this. It just came out. I don't know how that happened, but it happens sometimes, and everything is always like a sum of emotions and feelings that we're all going through in time. I don't like have one specific thing that I'm thinking about on a track like this. I think it's just life in general. And the message that seems to be coming through to me on this track is that there is struggle in life and depression and anxiety and frustration and fear and these kinds of things. But how we frame that is really the story of our life. And in this music, you can hear this theme. There's something yearning there. They're struggling there. Now, as we move out through this, you hear this start to change. There's almost like, it's moving in a different direction energy-wise there. It's almost like it's picking its head up. You know, the music is a little back to the other, maybe a little bit more forward. It's this back and forth, this struggling that's happening. To me, this is what the music's trying to tell me. Okay, and I'd love to hear what it's trying to tell you. Give me a like and a follow, and please, by all means, reach out to me and tell me how you feel about all this. Meanwhile, back to this. So, by the time I get out to the ending, I'm going to count this for you. 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Essentially, what has happened here is there's been a complete tempo shift to 3/4 time. And this creates a tremendous amount of contrast here from what the rest of this piece is saying up to this point. 4 minutes, we're into this 4 minutes now. And there's this struggle going back and forth between, the struggle and the hope and the struggle and the hope. And I feel like the music really starts to surrender to the moment and pick itself up now. It's almost like you can sense that tomorrow's another day here. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And then really release. That was unexpected. Now, but watch. 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And I'm actually switching back to 4/4 time briefly to close this piece out. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. This is just using tempo as devices to kind of take the listener on a journey a little bit. And again, sometimes in music, I'll try a tempo switch. Sometimes in music, a tempo switch just happens. It seems like that's where the music wants to go, so I just follow it, and I really don't throw up a lot of questions. And I think that's why this track kind of really powered through in a one take. So getting back to tempo tracking now, you'll notice we've come through here and we've got some great accurate 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and boy, it's really just nailing those slowdowns and those accelerandos. If you haven't seen part 1 or 2 in this series, we're talking about tempo and the importance of two aspects of tempo. The one is that you play to a tempo track that's been designed beforehand, or it could just be the default setting in your DAW, which usually most of them are 120 beats per minute. So you're playing along, and the idea is if you are playing certain kinds of music, electronic music and these kinds of things, there's times when a rigid 96 beats per minute, dead on accurate, is really what creates the vibe. It creates the mood, the interplay in your ears between reflections that are happening. Maybe there's some side chain pumping going on, all sorts of things that make you kind of get in a zone. On the other hand, this kind of music, and especially as it pertains to me in the solo piano world, this particular kind of track, is where I'm using something called tempo de rubato, which is basically, you know, and the way that I do this is my left hand, okay, that is playing the what is basically a it's almost like an Alberti type of situation, you know, like, you know, it's let me see here. Okay, where look what happens if I play that rigidly. And I don't know how you feel about that, but if I had to listen to that for 30 seconds, I wouldn't make it to 30 seconds on something like that. And it's not a slight against that type of music. It's just the music wants to live in a certain zone of expression. You know what I mean? It wants to be free in this particular track. So let it be free. But that does not mean that you cannot make the DAW's tempo controls bow to the source of the tempo. And this time the tempo is me. I'm not playing to the tempo in the project. The project is redesigning its understanding of tempo in this tempo track for me and what the music wants it to do. We're doing what the music wants to do. So here, 2 and 3 and 1. I'm going to pull this down. You'll want to, when you're tempo tracking, you're going to want to get the bass line tempo in the ballpark of where the tempo is. And 2 and 3 and let's see, 1 and 2 and 3. Just give me a second here. Getting it started is a little challenging sometimes. Once you get into the flow, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and there we go. So you'll see me reach up here and adjust the static tempo line. Let's refer to this space where I have not tempo tracked as static, and we'll refer to what became for this as tempo mapped. Static here, tempo mapped here. And watch it fall off the beat once this is off. So here we come. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Now it's out of time. Project tempo is now what happened. This is the purpose of our tempo map, is to keep this relationship strong. If I want to do something like a string quartet or something like this, and I want to produce this track into that, this gives me 100%, control over the situation, so that I can come back here and I can alter things. And even if it were audio, if you're staying within the zone of 10% now on time stretching, or even a little bit further on really serious instrumentations, you don't introduce a lot of artifacts stretching, but careful there. It depends on the situation. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and let me see what's going on there. No, that's here. That's here. Let's pull this up. Oops. And when you're tempo mapping, you could ask the question, well, Jace, do you need to do that to every part of the beat? And let's address this for a second. I mentioned this in different ways. I'm trying to say this 3 different ways because this is part 3 on this, and maybe just, I'll say this a third different way. Okay, so we have different ways of looking at tempo, okay? The most predominantly important one, okay, is feel. How something feels, okay? Can you feel the downbeat? Can you feel the flow? Or can you get into the rhythmic syncopation? Or can you get hypnotized by the relentless, just steady, not monotony, but predictability that allows you to relax and unwind in an electronic track? This is the first and foremost part of tempo. But the other part of tempo is data, okay? And the way that Logic is looking at trying to understand tempo is that it's looking at transients. When you reach down and you hit a piano key, that's a transient. If I play this back to this crazy thing, if I go, okay, or I play that, Logic is going to hear that, okay? And it's going to create these tempo-based events here on the transient lines. It's going to give you beat markers that you can use along with the transients, okay? So when you look back here over this tempo list and you say to me, well, man, look at that, Jace. That's like all over the place. There's no way, that's got to be skipping and jumping and accelerating and slowing down. Actually, that's called music. Okay, what you're looking at is just data. Let me turn the click track off. Let me close the global and start this right here for a second. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen. But listen. That's ebb and flow. When you look at it graphically, it doesn't look very ebby and flowy, does it? Don't let it fool you. And what's nice is once the tempo track's done, if I feel like I really need to smooth out some of these gradients in this tempos, these skips, and turn them into something that's more of a gradient, a smooth curve or something like that, I have that option to do that. This is the beauty of a tempo track, okay? One and two and three and one and two and three and okay. Let's get back on it here. One and two and three and see, I'm not quite on there. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in here and I'm grabbing the sector and I'm pulling that. The Logic's looking at that and it's saying, what is the position? The position is 83.37, okay? This is the second half of beat 3. This would be the, if you divided beat 3 into 3 and, this is and I'm pointing and right at that transient. This is 1, look at the, got the position. This is 1 and. This is beat 2, this is beat 3, this is the and in between, and I'm pulling it to the transient. You pull it to the transient, pull it to the transient, again. Now, one thing you want to watch out for when you're doing this, and this will throw you off. So if you're moving around in the tempo a lot and for some reason, your static tempo area drops down like this, you're going to be looking up here in your tempo track and it's going to be more confusing because you're going to be pulling these further away from the actual points. You want to make sure you don't do that. Keep your static tempo line in the vicinity of the ballpark, of where the beat actually is. I'm averaging about 82 through here, so you want to keep this static line somewhere between 82, 85, whatever it is, so that all you have to do is go click, pull, like that. Otherwise, this can get to be a real pain in the neck. And as I mentioned in parts 1 and 2, let's not forget that Logic has tempo sensing capabilities now that it refers to as smart tempo, and these can work great. There's a couple of reasons why that didn't work for this project, but even when it does work, I take a close look at what's going on there, because guess what? It's not always, make sure I'm not off here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Good. We're doing great. Not bad doing this and trying to talk to you at the same time. And I'm counting in my head and having this conversation with you. But anyways, yeah, the smart tempo functions inside of Logic are pretty cool. One, it's off. Okay, See, I missed my mark there. You don't want to do that. That's kind of a no-no. Now see, I moved that one, and it changed the position of this one. And this is why, well, I guess I probably should have said this. You've got to deal with this in a sequential way, okay? You don't want to have tempo events back up here and then come back here and change these and then move these up here. I mean, theoretically, you could come over here to beat mapping and you could say tempo edits effect following beat markers, but man, I'm telling you, that is like playing with fire. I have a set way that I do these kinds of things, okay, in a production, and this is something that was, some wisdom that was granted me by an LA scoring engineer. You want to go back to beat one, start your projects on the second bar of the production, so you have a 1 bar count in, even if you have a lead in. And you want to make sure that you follow in those protocols. This is what keeps, it's like, I don't know, it's like quality control that becomes a habit. It's something that I've ingrained into my practice. Okay. Well, guys, I'm going to keep working on this track, and I will be back with some more interesting stuff about this particular track. I think I'm going to just go ahead and do the mixing and the mastering of this track as parts to come. So I think we've kind of covered the beat mapping aspect of this. When I come back to you in part 4 in this series, we should be ready to start discussing some other things, or at least close out the subject. All right, take care.